Nicola's family has arrived in Walford, but they haven't come back simply to reconnect. The latest EastEnders trailer has dropped a major clue that someone knows exactly who Nicola used to be, and George may be completely unaware of the truth. And while Nicola's past begins to creep back into her new life, another nightmare is unfolding behind the scenes. A man is injured, hidden inside a car boot, and Nicola is about to confront him with a warning that could change everything. So why has Nicola's family returned now? What is the secret her mother refuses to reveal? And could Nicola's past finally destroy the life she has built in Walford? Because the more we see from this trailer, the more it feels like these stories could be connected. So let's break down everything we know.
The biggest reveal from the new trailer is that Nicola's family has arrived in Walford. And at first, it doesn't look particularly dramatic. Nicola's mother arrives carrying gifts and comes face to face with George. She also gets the chance to meet her granddaughter, and there is a genuinely warm moment as she sees the baby. For a few seconds, it looks like this could simply be an emotional family reunion. But then the conversation starts changing, because Nicola's mother clearly knows things about her daughter that George doesn't. And that's where this storyline suddenly becomes much more interesting. George has his own understanding of Nicola.
He knows the woman she is now. He sees her as a loving mother, a supportive partner, and someone who has been there for him. But her mother remembers another version of Nicola, a version from before George was part of her life. And judging by the trailer, there are some things Nicola really doesn't want dragged back into the present. George eventually starts asking about the history between Nicola and her family, and this is where we get one of the biggest clues. Nicola apparently hasn't told George the full story about why she and her mother fell out. George knows there was a serious disagreement, but he doesn't know exactly what caused it.
And Nicola's mother isn't exactly rushing to explain everything. Instead, she talks about the past in a way that makes it sound like there is much more underneath the surface. She suggests that families sometimes have things they don't talk about. And then she makes it clear that Nicola has changed. Now, that sounds like a compliment, but the way it is presented makes it feel more like a warning. Because George believes he knows Nicola. Her mother knows the woman she used to be, and those two versions may be very different. George even defends Nicola, explaining how much she has changed and how supportive she has been. He sees her as funny, clever, bold, and loyal. But Nicola's mother has a response that could leave viewers wondering whether George really knows his partner at all. Because perhaps he only knows the Nicola she wants him to know. And that raises the biggest mystery of this entire trailer. What happened in Nicola's past?
This is what makes Nicola's storyline so fascinating. Characters can change, people can grow, and perhaps Nicola genuinely has left her old life behind. She has a family, she has a child, she has George, she has built a completely different life for herself. But EastEnders has always been about the idea that your past can eventually catch up with you. And Nicola's mother arriving in Walford could be the first sign that her past isn't finished with her. Because why return now? Why suddenly meet George? Why start talking about Nicola's history? And why leave George with the impression that there are things about Nicola he doesn't know? There doesn't seem to be a simple answer yet, but there is another storyline happening at almost exactly the same time that could show us just how protective and how dangerous Nicola can become. And that involves Megan and Leo.
While Nicola's family drama's unfolding, Gemma and Jared are dealing with a completely different nightmare. They are concerned about Megan and her boyfriend Leo. According to Gemma, Leo has been treating Megan badly, and things become serious enough that Gemma and Jared decide they need to confront him. Their intention appears to be simple. They want to warn Leo to stay away from Megan. But as we know with EastEnders, things rarely go according to plan. The confrontation spirals, Gemma panics, and suddenly Leo is hit by the car. Now, this is the point where any normal person would call an ambulance, but Gemma doesn't. Instead, she makes a desperate decision. Leo is tied up and placed inside the boot of the car.
And that decision is about to drag Nick into a situation he definitely didn't ask for, because when Gemma turns up looking for help, Nick has no idea what is waiting for him.
Gemma struggles to explain what happened. She keeps insisting that none of it was planned. One thing simply led to another. But Nick wants to know the truth, and eventually the truth is revealed. There is a man in the boot, Leo. Nick is completely horrified. He cannot understand why Gemma didn't call for medical help, and from his point of view, this has now gone from a family argument to something potentially much more serious. Gemma tries to explain why she did it. She says she was frightened, she didn't know what else to do, and she genuinely believed that Nick would be able to help, but Nick initially refuses.
And she genuinely believed that Nick would be able to help. But Nick initially refuses. He doesn't want to be involved. Then Gemma reveals something that changes everything. She claims Leo has physically hurt Megan, and suddenly Nick understands why she was so desperate. He agrees to help, but only this once. And that's where the situation becomes even more dangerous. Because Nick may think he's helping Gemma protect Megan, but by getting involved, he could also be putting himself directly in the firing line.
And then comes one of the most intense moments from the trailer. Nicola confronts Leo. But this isn't a friendly conversation. She doesn't want excuses, she doesn't want explanations, she wants Leo to understand one thing: stay away from Megan. Nicola makes it clear that she knows what he has allegedly done, and she isn't prepared to let him hurt Megan again. The confrontation becomes extremely threatening. Nicola tells Leo that if he goes anywhere near Megan again, she will find him. It's the kind of warning that makes you realise just how far Nicola is willing to go when someone threatens the people she loves. And this is where I think the two storylines become particularly interesting, because we've just heard Nicola's mother talking about how much Nicola has changed. Then we see Nicola confronting Leo in this incredibly intense way. This could be the most important part of the entire storyline. Nicola's mother knows her past. George knows her present. And now Leo is giving Nicola a reason to show a much more aggressive side of herself. Could this be deliberate storytelling? Could EastEnders be showing us that Nicola's past isn't completely gone? Maybe she genuinely became a different person after starting her new family. Maybe George has brought out the best in her. But what happens when someone threatens her daughter or the people she loves? That's when we could see the old Nicola return. And if her mother already knows what Nicola was capable of in the past, perhaps she isn't simply visiting Walford. Perhaps she is watching. Perhaps she knows that eventually something could trigger Nicola, and Leo may have just become that trigger. What do you think happened between Nicola and her mother? And could George soon discover a side of Nicola that he's never seen before? Let me know your theories in the comments. And if you want to keep up with all the latest EastEnders spoilers, trailer reveals and upcoming storyline twists, make sure you stay tuned. Because something tells me Nicola's past is only just beginning to catch up with her.